Welcome to Video 3, Number Relationships and Numerals. Once children are familiar with the idea that later numbers are larger and earlier numbers are smaller, the increasing magnitude principle, it's useful to help them develop the more precise idea that each number is exactly one more than the number it follows. This idea is called the successor principle, and it's a central piece of what makes our number system work. The fourth and fifth key instructional practices focus on the successor principle and build on each other. Help children focus on neighboring numbers by asking what comes after and eventually what comes before questions about the number sequence. Help children discover the successor principle that each sequential number is exactly one more by asking what is one more than and eventually what is one fewer than. The first practice focuses on the number sequence to help children become comfortable starting a counting procedure at any number, not just one. We do this by helping children think about which numbers are next-door neighbors, asking children, what comes before and what comes after questions. While your students may be proficient at counting all the way to 10 when they begin at 1, it's a different thing to be able to recite the number-word sequence starting at 6 or 7. Being able to say what comes after or before any number gives them a foothold for producing the sequence they need. Eventually, we want children to be able to count up or down from any number, so we focus on practicing these next-door neighbor relationships to help them out. As a teacher, it's important for you to know that it is always easier for children to answer the what comes after question, because we most commonly recite and use the number sequence in a growing pattern, starting with 1 and getting larger, or increasing. It's easier for children to refer to this string of words to find the next number. Going down or backwards through this word list is more complicated. To answer, what comes before 8? They have to go through their mental number list, get to the target number, and remember to stop, and then remember what number word came before this stopping point. This is simply a more difficult thinking task. Reserve your what comes before questions for moments when you want to pose a challenge. As children get better at responding that what comes after 7 is 8 and what comes before 5 is 4, the different pieces and parts of their mental number list become more clear to them. They are developing the skill to access the number sequence from different points, not just by counting up from 1. The next key instructional practice shifts the question from what comes after to what is one more than. To us, this may appear to be a subtle difference, but the shift in understanding for children's thinking is a profound one. Here, for the first time, we're asking children to think about the size of the distance between two numbers. One more than is a relational idea that relies on a precise understanding of amount. Children must be able to hold the original amount in their heads, imagine increasing that amount by 1, and use their knowledge of the number sequence to determine the second amount. If their answers to what comes after and what comes before are solid, they can use that knowledge to answer one more than and one fewer than questions. And just as with the what comes after and what comes before questions, it is more difficult for children to answer what is one fewer than to answer what is one more than. For both of these questions, what comes after and what is one more than, the cardinality chart can be very helpful. Once you have introduced this tool, having it available in your classroom can help children get comfortable answering these questions. For example, to answer what comes after 5, a child can find the 5 column on the chart by counting the dots, if necessary. Then they simply count the dots in the next column to the right, the just taller column, to see what number comes after. Having the numbers in sequence, each represented by a countable column of dots, provides lots of handholds for children to hang on to as they work with these new ideas. The developmental progression divides these skills into 3 categories: number after knowledge, mental comparisons of close or neighboring numbers, and number after equals one more. There are several stages that can be observed in the number after knowledge section, which indicates that children are first able to use a running start to answer the what comes after question sometime between ages 3 and 4. That is, To answer what comes after 4, they may need to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. They next develop the ability to start a count sequence from any point in the 1 through 9 series. That is, they can count forward from 3 as 3, 4, 5, without starting from 1. Between ages 4 and 5, they become confident enough in the next-door neighbor number relationships to answer what comes before and what comes after for 1 through 9 without any kind of running start. This ability expands gradually to higher numbers. As the next section, Mental Comparisons of Close or Neighboring Numbers, shows, the ability to know which is more when the numbers are very close to one another, as in, which is more, 6 or 5, generally does not fully appear until age 5. And just like their what comes after skills, they may be able to make these close mental comparisons between numbers less than 10, but need more time and experience with larger numbers before they can answer which is bigger, 13 or 12, and a robust understanding of the successor principle, the idea that each number is exactly one more than the number it follows, is not in place until age 6. It takes a long time for this understanding to develop, and educators can support this by providing a lot of opportunities to compare numbers to one another. You may have noticed that the cardinality chart we present uses numerals along the bottom. This is the first time in these professional learning modules that we've recommended using numerals in your teaching of numbers and operations. Not using numerals in the first 2 modules is an intentional choice, meant to encourage you to focus your practice on the concepts and the number words, rather than the numerals. This emphasis on the conceptual understanding of what the numerals represent is reinforced by the last key instructional practice, which guides you to pair visual representations of quantity to both number words and numerals to create meaningful 3-way associations. This includes labeling quantities using the words and symbols from the home languages of all your students in the classroom. As indicated in the developmental progression for comparing and labeling magnitudes, children are only ready to begin trying to write numerals themselves around age 4.5, and generally are not proficient in this skill until around age 5. If children are interested and want to draw numbers themselves, there is certainly no harm in this, but it's important that they have a lot of time just seeing the numerals and thinking about what they mean, before they are ever asked to try to create them as a specific learning task. Including numerals as part of your cardinality chart is an easy way to address the last key instructional practice. You can also include numerals alongside dots or other small figures as part of your classroom environment. Perhaps there is a 3 sign with the numeral 3, or the Chinese character for 3, and 3 stars posted in the dramatic play area to remind children how many friends can be there at one time. Or maybe you have a center activity to help children build a 4 museum, or Museo de Cuatro. That is, a sign with the numeral 4 and 4 tally marks on it to provide guidance for children to use paper, crayons, and stickers to produce page after page with exactly 4 things on them. In this video, we've focused on how the last 3 key instructional practices of this module help you support children's development of the successor principle, build their mental number list, and become familiar with numerals. The 3 practices are: help children focus on neighboring numbers by asking what comes before and what comes after questions about the number sequence. Help children discover the successor principle, that each sequential number is exactly one more by asking what is one more than and what is one fewer than. Pair visual representations of quantity to both number words and numerals to create meaningful 3-way associations. These will provide ample opportunity for children to make their understanding of numbers far more robust, precise, and useful, and give them the tools they need to understand what the written numerals mean.